Now, in this episode, I want to share something that's very personal to me, very deep rooted to me. Really, you could say it's a skeleton in my closet, and it's been holding me back for a while now, mentally, emotionally, in my business life, in my personal life, meeting new people, and every area of my life has been affected by this skeleton that I'm about to share with you guys here. And hopefully you get some value from this, and it helps you just move forward in your life, or pull you through a challenge, or help you overcome an obstacle in your life. Maybe you can relate to this. So yeah, I'm just going to go straight in. So actually, Gary V is somebody who inspired me to actually make this video. And because of what I learned from Gary V, I went to see him recently as well. Because of what I learned from Gary V, how he, inspired me to do this, it's actually had a huge impact on my business by doing this around about 6 weeks ago. So I'll just explain further, and then when I get towards the end, I'll let you know, obviously, the impact it's had on my company and how that's worked, and how it's been the best thing that I've done recently, the shift, that turning point. So to get the hockey stick growth by this hurdle, this barrier that's been in the way. So let me get to it. So just going back, I've been involved in property since the year 2000 really, and or actively buying from the year 2000, and business all at the same time. So started buying property early, around the year 2000. As an investor in the southeast of England. Now, that went quickly from buying properties to doing renovations, to finding more properties and buying investments at auctions, and borrowing money, joint venture finance, and then building a company. And cut a long story short, managed to purchase, over a couple of hundred properties. That's 200. Over several years, up until around about the property crash 2008. So over that 8-year period or so, built a team up to 12 staff, managed to purchase just over 200 properties, investments. Now, I would say young, I felt like I had it all. This is not to boast, but I was very young, in my early 20s, buying properties, making lots of money. 6 figures back then was like 7 figures now. Obviously in 2019, 6 figures back then in around 2001, early 2000s is equivalent to 7 figures now, that kind of income. And so it's relative. And yeah, I bought the things that I really wanted. I bought a Porsche Carrera 911 Carrera 2S, so it was a top of the range Porsche Carrera, rear engine, rear wheel drive, because I grew up with motorbikes and motocross and petrol and adrenaline, so I didn't want to buy a Porsche to be a stockbroker or show off to look like I had money. I wanted a rear wheel drive, rear engine, not the 4-wheel drive, Porsche Carrera 911 C2S. So I could drive it like a sports car on the track, on the road. I took it to track days, and I actually exchanged it from a Yamaha YZF R6 motorbike that I had, because I love motorbikes. But my son was born, and every day I went out on my bike, the R6, wheeling, going through speed cameras, getting my knee down, all of those things that you do when you're young, in your early 20s. Any day of the week, just going out on my bike, I could have died. So I made a conscious decision as an adult, as a father back then, to sell the bike or trade the bike for a car equivalent to the bike. So just so you understand, I went from the R6, Yamaha YZF R6, blue one. It was beautiful, my baby. Bought it brand new in Eastbourne. And I obviously traded it up for the Porsche Carrera 911 C2S. So yeah, back then, built a very successful company, bought over a couple of hundred properties, had the Porsche Carrera, wife, children, more children, living the luxury, lavish lifestyle. And yeah, from the outside, looks like everything's perfect. Probably lots of envy and jealousy from other people around us because, yeah, very young, very successful, lots of money, big team of staff. I think we got up to 12 staff, and all the trimmings and trappings that comes with a six-figure lifestyle when you're in your early 20s. Back in 20 years ago, I'm talking about early 2000s. So, yeah, then my life took a massive turn. And yeah, something terrible happened. I mean, I was busy chasing the money, chasing the dream, trying to build something like a legacy, something successful. I made lots of mistakes back then in reflection. And yeah, I found out that, my wife, obviously I met at school, childhood sweetheart, she had an affair. And yeah, that was very bad. And the events that happened after that was my best man, who is a lifelong friend. I had two best men. One's a businessman. One was involved in mixed martial arts. And he was my best man, known him from school. I confided in him. And yeah, what happened is about 3 months later, after, obviously I found out that my wife had an affair, my best man decided on his own, or on his own back, off his own back, I should say, to, just give the guy a hiding. Turned out that it was a lot worse than a hiding once they had obviously started fighting, and the guy ended up in hospital. This is a guy that my wife, or ex-wife, had an affair with. And yeah, from that, what happened is, there was 4 of us just out one night, bumped into them, the group, and my nephew was with me, who was just 18, my other best man, and then my best man, who's involved in mixed martial arts, who decided to beat the crap out of the guy and put him in hospital. And it ended up that all 4 of us was arrested for a crime called joint enterprise. So me, my 2 best men, one of them actually did it, and my nephew all went to prison on remand for a crime called joint enterprise, which is the guy who did it. It doesn't matter. For example, let me give you an example. If a bank gets robbed, the person at the cashier with the gun threatening the staff gets the same sentence as the guy outside in the back that's in the car, the getaway driver. And the same for the guy who's in Marbella in Spain who planned it, okay? So it's classed as joint enterprise. So because my one guy committed the crime, which we was all charged for, and 3 of us were, out together, or 4 of us, it meant all 4 go to jail. Now, we went to prison, and it got to the point where, cut a long story short, 2 people went home based on the, pleading guilty to a lower charge, because we're there anyway. All of us are there and stuck. So everybody gets it. Whatever the sentence for the guy that did it, everybody gets it. So, cut a long story short, 2 went home and 2 stayed by pleading guilty, or I did, to a lower charge. Now, what that meant is I was sentenced to 9 years in prison for, in my mind, a crime that was not committed by me, committed by a lifelong friend. Now, massive disruption, as you can imagine. I mean, spending that time from being at the highest of the high in the property business, like I just said, having everything and still growing, getting that hockey stick growth, still growing, just getting started, you could say. And, sentenced to jail, went to prison, to a category A prison at the start. And yeah, it was a 9-year sentence, which was terrible, as you can imagine. Coming from having everything to being locked in a cage and having nothing, it took its toll on me and my family. And I lost my wife at the time, lost custody of my children at the time, and lost my home, lost my confidence, self-esteem by being in prison, taken away or ripped away from the world. It was around Christmas as well. And so I lost my companies, the businesses that I'd built up, all the assets that I'd built up, all of my work in life. Worked hard for that. And so I spent quite a few years with some of the most high profile prisoners, criminals, some serial killers in the UK. And you have to adapt and adapt quickly, which is something I learned from business, to survive in a place like that. And obviously just one thing that springs to mind is just navigating through that situation. I always would say to myself every day, I just want to get through another day in prison without getting slashed in the face, because it's just how they operate in there. They're just animals. If there's a problem, or you talk to somebody one day who's a murderer, and then the next day you don't talk to them, or you forget to say hello to them, or you generally just miss them, didn't see them talking to you, the next day they don't take that very kindly. Because you can imagine in a place like that, they're there for murder, they've got lots of problems, they might have been there for 18, 20, 25 years already, and they're somewhat can be unstable, if you understand what I mean. I was just hoping I could get through another day through those years of not getting my face slashed to pieces, so I can't get back into business and start again. Obviously I've lost my family and children, that's the most important thing, but what was on my mind was also about navigating through that minefield or battlefield every single day, which was tough. So, obviously I was released from custody and managed to escape custody early, I would say. I managed to get out earlier, which I'll probably go into depth in another video about that for you guys. I managed to escape from custody early, and what that meant for me was I could start to rebuild my life. Now, something that has stuck with me is something that Gary Vee said about being vulnerable and having a skeleton in your closet, or having a secret. So obviously when I came out of prison, you can imagine all of the things going through my mind, and the chemicals in my body, and how things had changed and how the world had moved on. I had to do things differently. And my first reaction was, I've got the skills and the knowledge and the confidence and the know-how in here to start again. Money wasn't important. Getting my freedom back, liberty back, getting back into life, into society, seeing my children, 3 children, and family. That was the most important thing to me. Not money, knowing money will come because it's here and it's here. But, I know what I'm made of, so money wasn't, I had no issues thinking I'm not going to make money again. It was rebuild my life, get my children back, and build that relationship with them, and spend time with them, and, repay my family for everything they did for me while I was in there. The confidence and the self-esteem of leaving the place like that for so long, and everything I saw and experienced in there, which, some things I don't want to, relive, just the day-to-day things. But it meant for me that when I left somewhere like that, I obviously had some shame. I was obviously ashamed. And so I operated in the shadows. Obviously, I spent the time with my children to try and rebuild all of those things, which are great now. And I just operated in the shadows. So what that meant for me in business, and how this relates to business, is I was operating in a very small world, very small box. I mean, I was ashamed of telling people my real name, for example. So I don't want to go to a meeting, or before I even got to the meeting, to try and do some property deals again. I didn't want to tell them my name because they could just do a little search, etc., and find some things out and find out this guy's been to prison, and then that just puts them off. So I had to have a strategy to get around that, which is obviously what I did for a while to navigate around those objections that I was going to get. But it meant I could only play small from leaving custody until I had the confidence again to put myself out there and just accept the judgment, whatever the judgment is. But I started small, operating the shadows, being as discreet as I could, hiding behind a cloak of anonymity, you could say, to operate, which meant slow, which meant difficult, which meant everything was 10 times harder or a million times harder, and growth is just ticking over, okay? I want the hockey stick growth. That's what I want, not just a ticking over and building slowly. Hockey stick is what I'm looking for to get back into the game. Now, yeah, it's something that I learned from Gary Vee, or listening to his content. I listen to a lot of Gary Vee's content, someone I've got a lot of time for. I value what he does and how he doesn't jump on the guru selling all the training things. He learns something one week and next week he's a guru and selling something else, and then the next week something else, and then the next trend, and then the next trend, and then the next trend. That's not what he does. So I have lots of time. I don't have a lot of time for many of those people, but there's a very few that I do. Probably 3 I could think of. Maybe 4 at the absolute most, okay? That I have any respect for out of those so-called gurus. Anyway, so something I learned from him was about when you're vulnerable to anything, you're just at a disadvantage and you have no leverage. When somebody else has the leverage over you, or you keep yourself in that vulnerable state, then everything is harder and you can't make any progress. It's very difficult to go forward. So what I learned from Gary Vee was coming out of my shell, revealing myself to the world, sharing this secret by putting it out there so people know, which is exactly what I'm doing now in this video for you guys, because I'm now past that stage. And since I came out, not of the closet in that sense, not that's a problem. Since my sister's gay, so I'm not, no, discrimination against any of that. Don't get me wrong. But since I came out from behind the curtain, excuse me, to reveal this secret, it's a massive, massive weight off of my shoulder. It's a massive lift. I'm hoping that this just inspires some of you guys that are watching that may have a similar problem, or, maybe not. You've been to jail and locked in a cage and, spent, a large chunk of your, early 30s with some of the world and the UK's most hardened gangsters and criminals and rapists and serial killers, because they're all mixed together, from category A prisons. So I'm not saying that you've been in a place like that. I'm saying you may relate to it and have any other problem in your life which is holding you back, okay? So when I came out with this secret for the first time, because I've been hiding and operating in the shadows, which is not good enough for me, it meant I was small, and I've exhausted everything I could have done in that small world, got to the top of the smallest level, and I just needed to obviously open up and talk to people. No network I had. Nobody was there for me after leaving custody, starting from zero. So when you come across all of these, or some very wealthy person is asked, if you had to start from zero, what would you do now? Or what would you do for the next 30 days? Or what would you do for the next 100 days? Okay. I've actually lived that, and I'm actually living that right now. So yeah, I'm a good person to ask, what would you actually do? Or what are you doing since having everything and losing everything and losing your liberty and going to jail and leaving jail with around, I don't know, £175,000 worth of debt. Never bankrupt, but around £175,000 in the red, okay? The day I leave custody. So what that means is when I shared this secret that was really holding me back and burning me up inside because I just couldn't maneuver or operate, something magical happened. Okay? So I've been holding on to this. I shared it, and just that little shift, something magical happened. Let me explain what I mean by that. I had no network, no joint venture partners or anything like that, no backing or anything. It was just me on my own getting started. No list, no JV partners, no friends I could leverage that I could get them to mail for me or email for me or anything like that. And I had this massive secret of just coming out of jail, which was holding me back mentally, emotionally, in every possible way, financially. So I went to a meeting with the largest letting agent in the city, okay? The largest agent. They've got about 30 odd staff, 32, 35 staff. They, let a property, at least one, every single day of the year. They manage probably now close to, I don't know, around 500 properties, I think. They're getting close to that point, somewhere around there. And I had this meeting, or the meeting was organized, and I thought to myself, am I going to not tell the truth about my background and obviously, that life, or am I going to be transparent and put myself out there and see what happens by telling the truth at this first meeting with the guy who runs the branch, runs the agency, runs the team? Shall I give him the truth, or shall I just try to continue to operate in the shadows? Now, it got to the point where I thought this one relationship, and first relationship since leaving custody, would be the breakthrough, could be the breakthrough, has the potential to change my life, change my business and everything else, and give me the confidence to get to the next level. So what I decided just before the meeting, I was, shall I tell the truth? Shall I, hide behind this cloak of anonymity and try and do some deals? And then what about if they find out? Or what if we get the first deal done and then we're on the second, third, fourth, and then 3 months down the line, then they find out that I'm lying, and then they find out, for example, my surname, and then they do some checks and realize that this isn't good, and then their clients are working with us and we're working with them, and now they're embarrassed because they brought me to the table and I'm this guy that just left prison and I haven't told them the truth, and now they're vulnerable. So all of these questions were in my mind. And it was just before the meeting, I think I knew what I wanted to do, but I hadn't decided. The guy walks in, I'm sitting there in Malmaison, as it happens. And as he's walking over to the table, it was at that point, by me seeing him and just feeling, I was a Samaritan while I was in prison, helping people to avoid suicide, working with lots of suicidal people who, I think 13 or so people commit suicide each year in one of the prisons that I was in. So I decided to be a Samaritan to help other people. So I don't want anybody to die or kill themselves. And if there's something that I could help them with, or talk to them, or just listen, and that gave them some value and stop them, taking their own life, these young men locked in cages. It's giving me goosebumps now, if you can see this. I don't know if you can zoom in. You can zoom in on that. Whew, got goosebumps right now. Whew. Can you see this? If you can zoom in there. I'm feeling it now. The emotions coming back. Whew, it's a horrible place. But yeah, I was just happy to help some other people while I was there. So as the guy's walking towards me, I'm sitting there at this meeting, about to do a big deal or sabotage my future with what I say, what comes out of my mouth. I know I wanted to do, and especially the type of person I am, and it's inside me, to just try and be authentic and be honest and be transparent and relate to the person and be likable and help them and just be honest and open. So just as he sits down, I made that decision in my mind. I didn't know which way I was going. I know where I wanted to go. I just decided I'm telling the truth. It's coming all out. So we sat there. First introduction. We've only spoke on the phone before. And just had some drinks. think we might have had some bar snacks and some nibbles. We sat there for maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, just talking. This is the first meeting. Now, I decided to tell the owner, the manager, the person who runs that branch, the largest branch in the city, I decided to tell them the truth, which was my background. And I'd been in prison, what I'd been in prison for, what that would mean for me, what it means for them. I didn't want them to be vulnerable with their clients. If we do business, we can do a lot of business together. So I told them the truth, and the guy really valued the honesty, the integrity, the truth, some of the stories. He asked me some questions about what it was like and how I coped and, how it's affecting my life. And we went through some deals together. It was a real aha moment for me. My heart felt that I'd done the right thing. My head confirmed that I'd done the right thing at the time, but it had some doubts, I must say. We looked through some deals. We looked at about 18 properties they had. They had about 18 properties that I could have done some deals with. Okay, so I didn't want to lose them by just operating in the shadows and not telling the truth. So when the guy left, I sat there for a while just thinking about what went on, going over the conversations we had, remembering his reactions when I said certain things, and remembering the words that he said after I told him certain shocking things about being in prison, etc. And when he left, I had a bit of doubt, thinking, I don't know which way it's going to go. I know what he said to me, and I think I read the situation correct. Being in business for 20 years, I think I read the situation correct. Now, obviously, he left. The window between him leaving to the next communication was quite long, and I was thinking he's changed his mind. He doesn't want to do it. He said we looked at all his properties. We're going to set up some viewings on about 10 or 11 of them. I think it was that I said I would look at, and he didn't come back to me for a few days. And I was thinking, obviously, his heart made a decision that day, but as he's left, his head, being the manager of the branch, made a different decision. That's what I believed at the time. So I just put it down to, I told the truth. I'm not vulnerable anymore, or I'm vulnerable at a much higher level now, but I was happy with that. A few days went by, he came back to me, just said he was busy, said he had some time off, he had a trip away to Vienna or something, and he's in the middle of proposing to his future wife, and he was waiting for clients to get back to him. So 4 or 5 days went by, and then he came back to me, and then that's when I knew he really appreciated what I told him. It cemented our relationship like that, with the honesty. He said it wouldn't be a problem at all. He's glad that he knows, so he's not vulnerable at any stage. I've got goosebumps again. That's how happy I was and delighted. It's the first relationship that I've put together since I came out of custody for business, the first one, and it's been the most profitable, which I'll explain in a minute. So we met up again, then we met up again, then we met up again, and went through all the details and the contracts and everything else. And I think I went to see 18 properties in a short period of time and put some offers in from the 18 properties. Out of the 18 properties, I managed to get one, then I got another one, then another one, then I managed to get another one. So what this comes down to is what I learned from Gary Vee, or it inspired me to not be vulnerable anymore by putting this out there so they know from the start. It enabled me to do 4 deals instantly with this company. There's many more deals that I put offers in the pipeline that are going through. We've set up a generic template, a contract. The deals get done like that. They send me a list. I go to view them. They're done like that. Entered into quickly. All the money gets sent across. They're up and running. And what it means for my business, which I'm delighted about, is it's added 44.9% in income, additional income. So that's more or less 50% my company's grown by in a 6-week period. Now, that's the hockey stick growth that I was looking for, okay? It's gone from here, where it was going well in the last, however long it's been, but I wasn't happy with the progress, wasn't happy with how slow it was because I was operating in the shadows. This one relationship, this one deal with this one company, the biggest company, by being honest, coming out, telling the truth about the worst things that have happened in my life and where I've been in prison, meant we've added 100 or 159,000 pounds of additional income, lots of that's passive, to my company, which is a 49.8% growth in a 6-week period. Now, we're only just getting started. I'm delighted. They're happy. Everyone's on the same page. And it's enabled me to obviously grow my business, take on new staff. I've had 2 new staff members that have started in that period alone. And there's lots more properties in the pipeline with this particular company. It's given me the confidence to come out. It's given me the confidence to obviously record this video and this podcast for you guys now. I hope you get some value from this. If you've got any challenges in your life that are holding you back, if there's any skeletons in your closet, trust me. I don't know how big your secret is or if your secret is bigger than mine, but it's been the best, most enlightening, most embracing, most mind-blowing thing that I've done, and it's increased my confidence from here to here. I'm very confident anyway, but I mean in that part of my life when I'm putting myself out there to others to be judged, and we've just gone from here to here. Hockey stick growth, and we're only just getting started. So if there's anybody listening right now that has a skeleton in their closet, something that's holding them back in their personal life, in their business life, in their relationship, or something like that. Now, when you actually put it out there to the world, so the world now knows, there'll be haters, there'll be people that judge you, me, that hide behind, Johnny 199, which is their handle on the internet or on, some social profile. And they haven't even got a picture for their face for their profile. Those people will always hate. But when you put it out there, when you've got it off your chest, it's a massive shift in your mind. And it enables you to go from here to here. And the most important part is you're now not vulnerable. Nobody else can beat you to the punch by coming out or putting something on the internet or saying something about you and about that situation, because you've already done it. You've already put it out there first. It's the same as 8 Mile, where Eminem comes to battle, and because he's revealed all of his skeletons, the other guy is left with nothing left to diss him with, or to beat him with, or to outperform him with, or to discredit him with. There's nothing left because he's put it all out there. When you do that, it's enlightening, okay? It's a massive shift in your mind, and the confidence it gives you, it makes you feel unstoppable and empowered. So what I'm saying to you guys is, if you've got anything that's holding you back, any situations you're hiding from or running from in your business life, in your personal life, in your family, emotional life, any aspect of your life at all, if you're vulnerable to anything, it can be used against you and you don't have the leverage. Put it out there. Make a video. Show your insecurities. Show your vulnerabilities. When you do that, trust me, the world becomes a better, brighter, more prosperous place. And when you do that, guys, I just want you to maybe tag me in the video or share the video with me, or just find me on social and just send me an email or comment below a post or DM me on any social platform you find. I would love to hear about your story. I would love to hear if you get some value from this, and I would love to hear that you go and do this and this makes your life better. I'm Ryan Otto, and I really appreciate you listening to or watching this video, listening to this podcast where I've obviously laid the worst thing that's happened in my life bare in front of all of you guys. And I hope you get some value, and I'll talk to you soon.